Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is WION World is One. We are glad you're watching. I'm Eric Njoka. Our top stories at this hour. Washington calls on Ukraine and Russia to back its plan to end the war in Ukraine as the United Nations General Assembly prepared to vote on a US resolution marking 3 years of conflict. Chinese President Xi Jinping affirms his no-limits partnership in a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on the third anniversary of the Ukraine war. This is President Trump pushes for a quick deal to end the war. French President Emmanuel Macron rushes to the White House for talks with US President Donald Trump at a moment of deep uncertainty about the future of transatlantic relations, says Russia is an aggressor against Ukraine. After 2 days of delay, Israel offers to free Palestinian prisoners if Hamas returns 4 bodies without a ceremony. German conservatives under Friedrich Merz vow to quickly form a government after winning a national election, but face tricky coalition talks and the prospects of an obstructive parliament after far-right and far-left parties surged. Elon Musk, who is leading a downsizing effort at the US government, says that starting this week, government workers will be put on administrative leave if they fail to return to the office. Hosts Pakistan are officially knocked out of the Champions Trophy. New Zealand beat Bangladesh to book their place in the semi-finals, while India also make it through to the last 4. Wall Street stocks open higher ahead of key inflation data and earnings from artificial intelligence leader Nvidia as markets attempt a rebound from last week's losses.
A 16-year-old boy has been charged after a teenager was stabbed in a Primark store in front of horrified shoppers. The victim, a 17-year-old boy, suffered a wound to his chest after being knifed inside the clothing store in Nottingham city centre at around 11:30 a.m. on Sunday. After being attacked in full view of shoppers, he was treated at the scene by paramedics and taken to hospital, suffering with serious injuries. A 16-year-old, who can't be identified for legal reasons, was arrested a few hours later. He has now been charged with wounding with intent and possession of a bladed article in a public place. He is due to appear at Nottingham Magistrates Court today. Detective Chief Inspector Claire Gould of Nottinghamshire Police said, "We understand the alarm this incident has caused, and I'd like to reassure the public we have been working at pace to build a full picture of what happened and why. I am pleased we have now been able to charge a suspect in this case. As we continue to progress with our investigation, we are still urging anyone who has information which could assist us with our inquiries, who hasn't already come forward, to please contact us as soon as possible." A Primark spokesperson said staff were assisting the police investigation and that the store would be closed until further notice. They added, "Our thoughts are with the victim and we are focused on supporting our colleagues who were in store at the time."
Boston 25 News reporter Drew Caritas continues our team coverage live in Boston. Drew, the comments made by the border czar are adding to anxiety among immigrants here in Massachusetts. Advocates are advising people to have family preparedness plans.
Rachel, the possibility of parents being separated from their children is becoming even more real for immigrants who are here without documentation following those comments made by border czar Tom Homan aimed at Boston and his announcement that ICE has arrested 21,000 undocumented immigrants during Trump's first term back in the Oval Office.
They are really hunting us down.
That's what Clemente Sahaki feels is happening a month after President Trump's return to the White House.
Everything is uncertain. Everything is up in the air.
Sahaki, who's lived in Massachusetts for more than 15 years, is now worried about being ripped apart from his 11-year-old daughter, who's in the 6th grade.
She feels intimidated. She feels the same fear. To us as parents, that's just cruel and inhumane to leave an 11-year-old child behind without their parents.
The 39-year-old admits to illegally crossing the border after leaving his native Guatemala, but says he's worked hard to build an honest life in the U.S. and pays taxes.
I started to question things that I'd never questioned before, like, my career or, trying to build a business in here, have a family here, buy a house.
I have clients who I know for a fact, yes, they may get deported, but they will not bring their kids with them to a country that is in full chaos.
Immigration attorney Giselle Rodriguez is telling people to plan for a worst-case scenario of who would care for their U.S.-born children should they get separated because of deportation, a gut-wrenching fear being felt by many families who thought they'd be safe in sanctuary cities like Boston.
For all of us here in Boston, not just in Massachusetts, but in Boston, we are definitely worried about, what do we do in situations where we feel powerless.
Advocates say a large percentage of recent immigrants here in Massachusetts have come to the state through legal pathways and now feel like they're being branded as criminals without any recognition of their contributions to the local workforce. We're live in Boston. Drew Caritas for your local station, Boston 25 News.
Drew,
Don't insult people who have the bravery you do not. If you never put a rocket in space, don't tell the man he's not smart, because you can't do it. Trump's saving the world. Maybe I was raised different. I'm not sure what it is, but whenever I'm on Twitter, the absolute lack of respect people have for those better than them, it just upsets me. And it's not even aimed at me. It just bothers me. When you see these nobodies with no followers attacking a professional fighter because he lost, or making fun of a boxer, or telling Elon that he's not that smart as he puts rockets in space, or complaining at Trump while he saves the world, and all these little nobodies are just sitting there with their opinions. It just aggravates me. Who the are these people? When I was raised different, you had to have respect for people, especially people who were surpassing you in basically every measurable human metric. And you're sitting there with 58 followers on a platform they gave you, just being arrogant and rude and saying, ha 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 ha, you, ha ha. Like, is the world just so now? It's just scummy and shitty. If you've never been in the ring, don't talk about going in the ring. Your opinion doesn't matter. Don't insult people who have the bravery you do not. If you've never put a rocket in space, don't tell the man he's not smart, because you can't do it. Trump's saving the world. Actually. Who are these people? Everyone just needs to get punched in the face. I swear I was raised differently, where if I ran my mouth at this shit, I would have got smacked up. If I made these stupid opinions and comments in front of my father about this dumb shit, I would have got smacked straight in the mouth. In fact, I'll tell you a story when exactly that happened. I went to my sister's talent show. It was some talent show for kids. I can't remember how old I was, maybe 8. And they got some girl up, and she played violin, and she made a couple mistakes. My dad turned to me and said, "How was that, son?" And I was only 8, and I was like, "Oh shit, Dad," because she made mistakes. Anyway, Dad said nothing. We got home, and he gave me a violin. And he said, "Play the violin." I said, "I can't." He said, "Oh, but you said that girl was shit. So play the violin." I said, "Oh, I can't." He beat the out of me. He beat the out of me for running my mouth and having an opinion about something I could not do myself. And ever since then, I just had enough respect for people to shut the all these on Twitter need their kicked. It's unbelievable.
The last email that was sent where he wanted to know what you did this week. You know why he wanted that, by the way? I thought it was great, because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist. They're trying to, that's how badly various parts of our government were run by, and especially by this last group. So what they're doing is they're trying to find out who's working for the government. Are we paying other people that aren't working? And, you know, where's all that, where's the money gone? So I think it was actually, there was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people, please tell us what you did last week. If people don't respond, it's very possible that there is no such person or they're not working.
Egyptian Foreign Minister Badel Abdelati and Sudanese Foreign Minister Ali Youssef El Sharif on Sunday discussed recent development involving Sudan's Parliamentary Rapid Support Forces and their allies who signed a charter to form a parallel government in Sudan. The war in Sudan will end with victory of the Sudanese armed forces and all other participating forces, the popular resistance. When these forces defeat the rapid support militia, there will be an end to the war. Before that, there is no other way to stop the war except surrender. No one will recognize the so-called parallel government to the Sudanese government. This is a confirmed position, and His Excellency the Minister Abdelati also confirmed it. Of course, we in Sudan also do not accept that any country recognizes the so-called parallel government. The RSF signing ceremony took place in Nairobi, Kenya, behind closed doors. We also talked about, and the Minister El Sharif was informed of the Egyptian plan to reconstruction in Gaza, and also informed of what will be discussed during the Emergency Arab Summit here in Cairo, and the outcome that we are looking forward to with regard to supporting the Palestinian people and stabilizing them on their land. The Sudanese military has regained control of key areas, including Wad Medani, the capital of Jazeera province, and the largest oil refinery in the country.
В телефонном разговоре, кстати говоря, и на встрече в Риаде, так чтобы совсем предметно, конечно, затрагивать там проблему, связанную с украинским кризисом, но он сам по себе сущностно не обсуждался. Мы только договорились о том, что мы подойдем к этому. Но в этом смысле и в этом случае, конечно, мы не отказываемся от участия наших европейских стран. Не только европейских, но и другие страны имеют право и могут участвовать, и мы относимся к этому с уважением. Действующий президент объявил о том, что он хочет добиться мира, кстати говоря, мы тоже, и как можно быстрее. А действующий глава режима, он стоит на пути к достижению этой цели. Вот отсюда и позиция, как мне представляется, президента Соединенных Штатов. Мы могли бы договориться с Соединенными Штатами. Мы не против. Мне кажется, что идея хорошая. Соединенные Штаты сократили бы на 50%, и мы сократили бы на 50%. Ну а Китайская Народная Республика потом бы присоединилась, если захочет. Мы считаем, что предложение хорошее, и мы готовы к дискуссиям на этот счет. Наличие военного положения. Если переговоры.
Next week there's a key deadline for your Canada and Mexico tariffs. Do you expect those will go back on, or do you believe those countries have done enough on the border to stop those from taking effect?
We're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly.
We've been mistreated very badly by many countries, not just Canada and Mexico. We've been taken advantage of. We were led by, in some cases, fools, because anybody that would sign documents like they signed, where they were able to take advantage of the American people, like has happened over the last long period of time, except for a little 4-year period that took place 4 years ago. But anybody that would agree to allow this to happen to our country should be ashamed of themselves. No, the tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. It'll be very good for our country. Our country will be extremely liquid and rich again. Plus, we're doing other things, as you know. We're finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse.
President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron met today in the Oval Office for talks about Ukraine. First, they actually held a virtual call this morning where they had a meeting with all the other G7 leaders to talk about the situation in Ukraine. And we're now today on the 3rd anniversary of the conflict. There's been a lot of differences that have emerged, especially in the last 10 days or so, between Trump, Macron, and the rest of European leaders about the way ahead. And this also comes at a point where Trump has been pushing for access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals for payback for some $180 billion in aid that's already been given to the U.S. To Ukraine. Today, as Macron and Trump sat down in the Oval Office, the president said that they're, quote, very close to coming to an agreement with the Ukrainians on a deal.
I think the war can end soon. Within weeks.
Second thing he alluded to as well was that he believed that Putin would agree to peacekeepers European peacekeepers being in Ukraine post-conflict.
European troops may go into Ukraine as peacemakers. So when the agreement is done, they can watch that everything's followed properly. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
The Kremlin has not responded to requests for comments on this, but if that's true, that would be a major departure from things Putin has said in the past, when he's been pretty vehemently opposed to the idea of European or American forces inside Ukraine.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Great honor to be here. The purpose of our meeting today is to end another battle, a really horrible one, a war, something that we haven't seen since the Second World War, that is ravaging European soil. Our focus is on achieving a ceasefire as soon as possible and ultimately a permanent peace. My meeting with President Macron today was another important step forward in that sphere, because he's been very much involved right from the beginning in trying to get it over with, and we're going to get it done. Should have never started, but it did. And what a mess, what a horrible, bloody mess. I'm also pleased that President Macron agrees that the cost and burden of securing the peace must be borne by the nations of Europe, not alone by the United States, and Europe must take that central role in assuring long-term security of Ukraine, which they want to do. And that's not a very big step. A big step is what's going to happen over the next few weeks.
I think it's good to have discussion with other leaders, and especially when you disagree. I stopped my discussion with President Putin after Bucha and the war crimes because I considered that we had nothing to get from him in that time. Now there is a big change because there is a new U.S. administration. So this is a new context. So there is good reason for President Trump to re-engage with President Putin. I think it's good to have discussion. I think it's useful to have negotiation. I think it's super important to go to the peace. But my strong point was to say, let's try to get something first which can be assessed, checked and verified, and let's be sure that we build sufficient guarantees on the short run, and this is where we are ready to be engaged. As for France, a lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged, but we do need this American backup because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees, and this is our collective deterrence capacity. And I have the feeling that the president has this capacity.
There's tremendous distrust on both sides. That's why it's good that I'm coming in now. But I think it's to the very much benefit of Russia to make a deal and to go on with leading Russia in a very positive way. That's what you have to do. But I really believe that he wants to make a deal. Maybe wrong, but I believe he wants to make a deal.
فإن حزب الله هم الغالبون. القسم بالله الواحد الجبار. البيعة للقائد الخامنئي المفدى. الوفاء بدماء الشهداء. عهدا لك نبايعك قسما بالله إن على العهد
Israel's ambassador to the United States is warning about an Egyptian military buildup in the Sinai Peninsula. And Hezbollah threatens Israel over the continued IDF troop presence in Lebanon. Here to discuss these developments and more is Jewish News Syndicate Middle East correspondent Josh Hasten. Josh, it's good to have you with us. So first, what can you tell us about the Israeli ambassador's assertion about the Egyptian troop buildup in the Sinai? Is it true? And if so, why would Egypt be doing that in violation of the Camp David Accords?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And this is a violation of those peace accords, which go back all the way to 1979. At this juncture, we're not exactly sure why the Egyptians are doing so. But Egypt, a country which borders Gaza and Israel, a country which did not let in many of those Gazans who could have been seeking refuge from the war in Gaza. Egypt also turning a blind eye for so many years to the Hamas smuggling tunnels. All of a sudden, they've established a military presence, several brigades down there in the Sinai. Number one, it seems like they're moving into an offensive position. Could they be perhaps trying to lead some sort of attack against Israel? That is our great concern right now. That's number one. Number two, could they be establishing positions there because of the Trump plan, thinking that perhaps, in fact, Gazans will try to flee towards Egypt? That could be a concern of the Egyptians. Now, they've been holding Gazans there, not letting them into Egypt. And all of a sudden, they're playing a role on an international stage, perhaps trying to keep them in Gaza against the Trump plan. They are trying to put together a plan of their own. They'd like to see the Gazans remain in Gaza, unwilling to help their fellow Arab Muslims instead trying to hold them there as pawns against the state of Israel. So that it could be several of those factors playing in here, and that's the reason perhaps why you have a military buildup, again, in violation of the Israeli-Egyptian peace accords.
Well, the good journalist that you are, and I know from my own experience, I mean, you always look at timing of things. Trump makes the announcement about suggesting possibly moving the people of Gaza into the Sinai, and then this. I mean, was this a sudden buildup, or has it been going on for some time now?
So it's happened before. There have been different instances of it. And unfortunately, Israel has downplayed the significance of past attempts by Egypt to show a military presence. And all of a sudden, they have a new plan, if you will, completely the opposite of what President Trump says he wants to do. That is move the Gazans out of Gaza in order to rebuild, and then the United States would then take over. So all of a sudden, Egypt wants to get involved when they've been quiet for so long, ignoring the plight of the Gazans, ignoring what's going on in that part of the globe.
So is Egypt's plan for Gaza getting any traction? What's the response?
Well, it's a brand new plan right now. I just don't think it's feasible with the situation you have in Gaza. As President Trump has said time and time again, Gaza is in total ruins right now. You have those unexploded munitions right now. It's a very dangerous place to be. So do the Egyptians really want more people dying there, more kids dying with the unexploded munitions throughout there? Do you want people living in tents for years and years? The American administration has said it's going to take 5, 10, 15 years to rebuild Gaza. So you want the people actually staying there? So I don't think it's a realistic plan. I think that they're really trying to shirk from their responsibility, as they've been doing all along, and not give the Gazans a place to go, instead holding them there as pawns, as they've been doing against the state of Israel.
Well, meanwhile, on Israel's northern border, more threats are coming from Hezbollah over Israel's continued troop presence in southern Lebanon. So why does Israel not meet the agreed-upon Tuesday deadline for withdrawal? What do you expect will happen next?
Yeah, so Israel basically has withdrawn from other than 5 strategic positions, and that is for security reasons. Israel right now has between 60 and 80,000 of its residents still not in their homes along the northern border. Israel can't just pull back. We can't have a situation where you have a repeat of the October 7th massacre on the northern border. That's absolutely unacceptable. So there is a vacuum right now where the Lebanese army has failed to step in. So Israel is saying until Hezbollah pulls back from the northern border of the state of Israel, until it goes up north of the Litani River, you're talking about 18 to 20 kilometers north, until they do so per the agreement of the ceasefire, Israel is not willing to pull back from those 5 strategic places. So Israel is maintaining its military presence there. Israel is continuing per the ceasefire, not in violation of the ceasefire, but per the ceasefire, to strike those Hezbollah terrorists who are still trying to attack the state of Israel. So until Israel feels safe enough to allow its residents to go back into their homes, until we feel comfortable to have our residents move into their homes, Israel must maintain a security buffer in that area. So until that happens, we're going to maintain a presence in those 5 strategic locations. And then eventually, once the residents have the confidence to move home, then they'll start to do so slowly. It's going to take some time. And until that happens, Israel will still maintain a presence in southern Lebanon.
It's all about security. What would you do if it was your country, right?
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Okay, 2 vital fronts in Israel's struggle for security in the Middle East. Josh Hasten, Jewish News Syndicate correspondent, thank you for providing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.